In this video I'll be looking at a basic drawing procedure for constructing your drawing, and if you're really just starting out drawing, there seems to be a common habit of images looking very flat. Just for example, the difference between a square and a cube. This has three dimensions, whereas this is just one. And you'll see a common trend in people just beginning, or young children when they draw. It tends to look very flat. So this procedure will hopefully help you get around that, and you'll also, even for more advanced drawers, it may remind you just to really think about these basic forms and using them to construct your drawing to give your image more weight and more realism and a sense of space and form, and that it is a three-dimensional object. So um, the procedure is using a combination of these forms, either or. You might only use one of the forms, but um, yeah, a combination. So cube, a rectangle, a prism, a cylinder, a pyramid, a cone, sphere, and then you can see he's given examples of how you can combine these. He has a castle tower as a cone and a cylinder, and then using those to make these, and then you could further add detail. But the main thing is to get those building blocks together. And you can see this image really pops off the page because apart from the tone and everything, he actually has a lot of these basic forms in here, like a lot of combination of spheres within the head, and then a cylinder form, an ellipse, and then further refining those forms to make them more organic. Then we can see this procedure here. So this is something you can really start out with. Kids pick this up pretty easy, but I still do these practices. They're a lot of fun, and you can get a lot of variety. So the procedure is to start with a basic circle, and then you have a center line and place where the features will be. The eye line, the nose, the mouth, and then further detail. He has the cheeks and other forms, the nostrils, ears, and then draws back over that and has this character portrait. And you can also see examples here. So I suggest you go through this book, examine it further. Explains in more detail and has more variety of shapes being included. More square forms, cube forms. And yeah, repetition of the examples, so you can really make it stick. But then he's also combining the expressions into these examples, and then you can see he's combining forms, these spheres. So it's a really fun method. You can really play around with it. You can see how many different character types, how these forms can really express the different characters. So this guy is a really strong, rigid character. This guy's he has a bit of a comical feel. He's looks like kind of friendly. This guy, a bit more overweight, a bit more um, round forms around the chin. This guy is, I guess, a more straight character. He has a pretty basic form, but then you can see when you begin to add the surface detail, you can make the guy look like he's been in the sun working a lot. He looks like a bit of a thug, but the basic construction is there, the underlying construction. So yeah, then it applies to children. He also talks about basic proportions of the face. These are important things to think about and to learn, because when you understand the basic proportions, then you can tweak those and begin to begin to see those in people's faces. So their eyes might be a little wider than normal, or their eyes might be wider apart. Their nose might be wider and different things. So these are things that you learn, and if you want to look more in depth, look at Andrew Loomis's other books, but there's also other anatomy books that discuss these things. There's Andrew Loomis's Drawing the Heads and Hands, which goes very in depth. And you can also study things like skull shape, but this is further on. What I want to show you in this video is a basic drawing procedure. So we've looked at these, but I'll just give a practical example of that. So just draw a circle, then we're putting in a center line. Might do another circle down here just to give a lower jaw part. Center line. Some cheeks. And just to mix things up a bit, I'll just do a cube form here. Maybe another square here. Bit of a eyebrow line. Circle. Perhaps a rectangular shape, or more so a pyramid, I suppose. Some circles. Let's indicate where the mouth would go. Another circle. And you can see it's beginning to look more three-dimensional. Now that's just the groundwork for the next step. So just lower the opacity. Working traditionally, you can knock this back with a kneadable razor, or you can just draw it lightly. So we can now use this as our guideline. Just add that surface detail. Really thinking about how it wraps around that form in space and in 3 dimensions. Now this is, more stylized, cartoony proportions, but you can also use this procedure to understand forms in more realistic stuff. And then when you understand proportions, you can tweak it to your liking, or you want to go more realistic. And then you can also look at reference, and kind of when you're looking at reference, think about how you can break that down into these basic forms. And it'll help you drawing, and it'll help you commit it to memory, because obviously it's a lot easier to memorize the basic geometric forms than it is to understand the more complex details of surface details and texture, and more organic forms that appear in nature. But you'll begin to see how you can really just tweak these basic forms into the more complex ones that are going to appear. Just add some little surface details. And this can be applied not only to faces, obviously, it can be applied to anything from plants to to animals, people, even architecture, um, any like life form. Even if you're drawing a tank or something, you can see how a tank is constructed from basic forms like ellipses for the around the treads, and you're gonna see obviously a lot of rectangular and cube shapes for the tank body and the chassis. There we go. You got a cartoony looking guy with a huge chin based on just those basic forms. So that's one example. I suggest you read Loomis's books. Fun with a Pencil is a good introduction, and then he also discusses these examples in successful drawing and more realistically in drawing the heads and hands and figure drawing for all it's worth, all by Andrew Loomis. You can find those links on the website howtodigitalpaint.com, where I give a brief overview of the book, so you'll find the topic